Welcome to the Wayne Public Library's virtual author chat. My guest today is P.A. DePaul. P.A. is a Publishers Weekly best-selling and award-winning author. Her books are full of action, suspense, and romance. As a hybrid author, she has books traditionally and independently published. Her traditional publishers include Berkeley, a Penguin Random House imprint, and Harlequin Books. P.A. loves connecting with readers. Welcome, P.A. Please tell us a little more about yourself and your novel, Crossing the Line.
I love books. I love to get inside stories, and I've been this way since I was little. My parents both were avid readers, so it wasn't hard for me to make that leap myself. And I probably could say one of my favorite places are libraries, because there's nothing better than to go into a place dedicated to books and making them available for everybody. So I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you here too.
Thank you. And my book, Crossing the Line, just came out April 23rd. If you like the trope, best friends to lovers and workplace romance, this is one for you. If you like a little bit of romantic suspense with it as well. These are teammates, best friends, and partners. They have been through thick and thin on all kinds of missions. And the latest mission has really, really tested their relationship. And this is where they find out, will they cross the line into falling in love?
Okay. So I know that it's part of your SBG series. How many books are in the series?
So I have 3 full-length novels and 1 novella. All of them can be read as a standalone, but I will say that you get the most out of all the characters if you happen to read them in order, but they can be read on their own.
Okay. And how many books do you have planned for the series?
I want to write 1 more, because there's 1 more character that everyone is looking forward to, including myself. It's that guy who's he's just the jerk, but yet he's lovable. And you get why he is, and you just want him to have his story. But he also refuses to tell me his story. So I'm waiting for him to tell me what his book is about. So there will be 1 more, just not yet.
Okay. Well, hopefully he reveals the story to you soon.
Yes.
So in all, how many books have you published?
I have 10 total between traditionally published and independently published.
And what was your first book?
My very first book was back in 2013. It was by a small press who took a chance on a writer who had no clue what she was doing. It was a paranormal based on angels and demons and this poor human that was stuck in the middle. And that was my first foray into learning about what does publishing mean.
And what was the title of that book?
It was Guardian Redeemed.
Romantic suspense or a different genre?
I would say it was paranormal suspense. And at the time that I was publishing it, there really wasn't that genre created. You know, you had your paranormal, which was generally your witches, your vampires, your werewolves, or you had urban fantasy, which, you know, is apocalyptic. There really wasn't a lot of angels or demons, so it was kind of hard to figure out where to put it.
Okay. But these days you generally write romantic suspense.
Yes.
What is it about romantic suspense that you like that made you decide to write in that genre?
I love conflicts. I just absolutely love conflicts, and romantic suspense allows me to put as many in there as the story lets me get away with. Because your hero and your heroine each have issues. Your overall story has an issue. Your villain has an issue. Sometimes you have multiple villains who have issues. So it's getting as many conflicts in there as possible so the pages just keep turning.
Okay. Well, speaking of heroes, heroines, and villains, what do you think makes a good one of each?
I would say you have to understand their motivations. You have to understand why they're doing what they do. If you understand why they do what they do, you're more apt to root for them. Even the villain sometimes, because the villain always thinks it's he or she is a hero of their own story. They have a reason why they're being bad. They were wrong somehow or whatever. No villain just wakes up one day and says, I'm going to bomb this place or whatever. There's a reason. So I think that hero, heroine, and villains, once you understand why they do what they do, you're more apt to get into the story.
Okay. Um, so, talking a little bit about your writing career, would are there any like good pieces of advice that you received, or are there any not great pieces of advice you received?
Both. Good pieces of advice would be let yourself write an awful first draft. Just, it can be awful. And that's okay because the first draft is telling yourself the story. You may have an inkling of what you want to write about, but putting it down in a full length novel or even a novella, you don't know every piece. So it's telling you the story as, it's unveiling each time each page you're going through. So go ahead and write it. You can always go back and edit it once you know what the story is. So that's probably my best advice that I've gotten over the years. And the worst advice I would say was when people told me that this is specifically how you're supposed to write. This is how you're supposed to plan your book and how you're supposed to sit down and write. And no, there is no right way to write a book. Some people may, sit down and just write. They may have no plan whatsoever, and that's okay. It's just flowing for them. Others have to plot and have a full outline to, the nth degree, and that helps them keep them organized. Well, that's okay too. But when somebody tells you, no, you must do it this way, that's not good advice.
True. There is no one way of anything, I think.
No.
Just, everybody takes their own path to it.
Yeah, when I first started out, I had people telling me, no, it must be this way. And I was so confused. And then I was getting almost gun shy. I didn't want to write. I was just, oh, I can't do it this way. And I had to get out of my head. Just say, this is how I'm going to do it.
So I'm looking at your books behind you, and I couldn't formulate the question, but I'm going to try now, like in the ones that I sent you. I know that you wrote for Harlequin, and you write the what they call the sweeter, the cleaner, but
Yeah.
still romantic suspense. And
Yeah.
the SPG series is a little sexier.
Right.
How hard was it to, kind of like, well, did you write them at the same time? That was going to be one of my first questions.
Luckily, maybe not luckily, maybe that's not the right word, but no, I did not write them at the same time. That would have been really hard.
It's like switching gears.
Yes. I had written the SPG series earlier in my career, and part of them were distributed by Penguin. And then later on in my career, I got the contracts with Harlequin. And my agent had come to me and said, Harlequin is looking for authors to write in their love inspired. And I said, well, what is that? And she goes, well, it's pretty much Hallmark, but with, like has a religious aspect to it. And I was like, okay, I've never written that before, but sure. She says it has suspense to it. And I was like, okay, that I can understand. So what was harder for me was understanding the rules that Harlequin has around what they expect to have in their novel and the language they wanted to see in there or not see in the novels. And I had worked with excellent editors. So if they saw it pop up, they would be like, no, we don't allow this. Can we rewrite it to this? Whatever. So they kind of helped walk me through how to write it.
Okay. So that was my question. It's like, that's a very different, like,
Yes, yes,
but still the same because it's
yes,
romantic suspense. So that part of it is going to be the same. Um,
right.
that's why I couldn't. I tried several times to write the question. I'm like, I can't. I can't figure out
Yeah,
how the best way. And I don't want to say like, is it different? Is it harder? Is it like, what's the difference? Okay, so I'm glad I got to ask you. So because you wrote these two sort of slightly different, you're getting a different audience probably
yes,
for each. So do you hear from your readers, and for each of the different
I do.
series?
I
Okay.
do. And even on my website, I make sure that I have like a little, I don't want to say disclaimer because it sounds so bad, but I do have like a little sentence saying if you're looking for the sweeter side, you'll love these books. And if you're looking for the sexier side, you'll love these books, just so that I don't have anybody who might send me an angry email going, wait a minute, I thought you wrote all of this. But I would say overall, through social media, it has its good and its bad, but luckily I've had a lot of positive on social media. I've had readers, message me directly. I've had emails. I even think through reviews. I look at those as someone reaching out to me and letting me know maybe they book helped them through some time, or they can't wait for the next one because it was just so awesome, or whatever. So I would say that there's generally two sets of readers. If a reader reads love inspired, there may be some crossover, like I would cross over myself and read both. But I would say there's generally two two types of readers who would reach out to me, but it's all been pretty positive. So I'll
Okay.
take it.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Um, what are you currently working on?
Right now, I had a book that I wrote that I absolutely loved. It's like a lighthearted suspense. I call it my comedic suspense, and I'm going through edits with it, and it's about a thief who has to talk an FBI agent into helping her, but to do that, he has to kind of throw the rule book out the window and kind of break some rules in order to help her save her uncle. And the things that I put them through on their journey to save their uncle, we'll just say I had a lot of fun with the things that I put them through. I still laugh at certain chapters as I read them. So hopefully that will come out maybe the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
Okay, well, look forward to that. Um, so I tend to break down the chat into like your books, and then we move on to writing. So I'm gonna ask you some writing questions now.
Okay.
Okay, so over the years, how have you developed as a writer?
I would say that when I first started, like I mentioned, I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't even know how to take a book from the beginning to the end. I have quite a few drafts where I've gotten to the 300th page and I still had no idea where this book was going. So I would say, developmental wise, I finally learned how to take a book from the beginning to the end. And I kind of developed, instead of just sitting down and winging it, I kind of developed a both winging it a little bit as well as plotting a little bit, where I don't want to know the whole story up front, but I need to know the characters a little bit. I need to know the villain a little bit, and I need to know the high point of what I need to reach in order to make the romantic suspense believable and the pace moving. And I kind of sort of know how I need it to end, but everything else I wanted to surprise me. That's when it keeps my interest. So I also learned how to say things quicker. Maybe I don't need 3 sentences to say something that I now can put into 1 sentence. So I've gone back to look at some of my earlier manuscripts and I'm like, oh no, I could say that so much better now, and the pacing, I can pick the pacing up in this. So yeah, I've learned a lot.
Okay. Um, and what would you say was a major influence on your writing?
I would say other authors. Sometimes it could be listening to them speak, or maybe they're on one of these talks, or maybe I'm at a conference. Maybe it's a writers group, and it's authors who are still working to get their book out, whether it's by, doing it themselves or getting a traditional publisher to put the book out. They inspire me. They influence me in order to sit down myself and continue writing even when the days are hard. So other writers, just even sometimes hearing that they had a bad day and this is what they did about it. Well, now I'm not so alone. They had a bad day and I'm having a bad day, but they didn't give up.
Okay. Okay. That's a good influence. Uh, so, with craft elements, do you feel that you have a really strong, like, that you're strong in one craft element, versus another? What do you think you're better at?
I would say probably the suspense and the high action scenes are probably my strongest suit. They're just, to me, fun to write because I love when my heart is pounding. I love to be able to put a scene together that just, are they going to make it through? You know, Even sometimes if I didn't have them make it through X, they have to, of course, you know, make it through, but how? How many conflicts can I even put into that? So if my heart is pounding as I'm writing it, I'm hoping that translates even a small percentage to when the reader is reading it. So
And something that you think you want to get better at?
I would say adding a deeper vulnerability to characters. I'm okay at it, but there are authors out there who are just amazing. They they can almost rip your heart out with some of the vulnerability that they and the level that they put in their story. Now I know that sometimes those books are slightly different than romantic suspense because I also have to concentrate on, keeping the high action plots forward. But I would love to be able to get even more vulnerable with some of the characters. So it's something I'm working on.
Oh. Um, so approximately how long does it take you to write a book?
Um, Depends on if I have a deadline or not, but I would say 4 to 5 months to get a draft that I'm willing to give an editor. Because sometimes, like I said, that first draft should never see the light of day, but it told me the story. So then I'm going to go back and edit again and maybe rework. Or maybe, oh, by the end, I really like this. So now I have to go back and add elements so that this just doesn't come out of left field or whatever. So I would say 4 to 5 months, like I said, unless I'm on a deadline. And I usually have weekly goals. And sometimes they translate to a daily goal. Sometimes I may have something family wise or whatever, and the next day's goal may be doubled or whatever. But I have a weekly goal, and I adjust that depending on how quickly I need to turn that book in.
Okay. And do you have a writing routine? Like, are you a morning person, an evening?
I would say I'm not morning. Mornings are tough for me. I would say I'm probably late morning to afternoon, maybe into early evening is when I probably get the most writing done. I try to sit down every day to write something or at least to work on something with the novel. Sometimes you have to have, your social media days or you're answering your emails. And even those I count as, well, I did something in the author world. But I at least try to, even if it's a small paragraph, well, I did something today that moved the book forward. And like I said, I'm working on that weekly goal just to keep myself on track.
Okay. Um, so Now it's publishing. Now we that's get publishing. What was one of the most surprising things that you learned when publishing your books?
I would say when I was traditionally published the first time through Penguin, not that the small press didn't do this, but I would say I was most surprised when I was with Penguin and the rounds of edits that it went through and the types of edits. And sometimes that was, a little frustrating because here I think I've got the book. And then an editor comes back and says, no, no, this, and this may not work the best, or you really should expand this. And here I'm going back and rewriting. But in the end, all those rounds of edits made the book shine as best we could. And it could be like 4 or 5 rounds. And like I said, it's different types of editing that I'm going through. So
With the same editor, or does it go to different?
no, it starts with my editor at first, and he'll read through and say, okay, this is working, this is not working, let's try and expand this. No, I don't like this. Can you do this or whatever? And that's like the developmental edit. So we're just developing the story together. And then once we're both pretty happy with the developmental edits, then it's going to go on to the copy edit round. And that's going to be fine tuning. That's where your commas are in place and your blue eyes throughout the story, or your timeline is correct. And it's like all those little tweaks. And then once I work on all those, I send it back and they look at it again. And then if anything needs to be adjusted, then I send it back. And then we go through another round of edits, and it's a different editor. And I apologize, I don't really, maybe it's a senior editor, I'm not sure. But now they're going to read it to make sure we all didn't miss anything. So it was a lot, and it was impressive.
Wow, that is a lot, but it's
Yes.
I mean, it's good. Of course, you want the best product to be put out on the market.
Right.
They, of course, do, and you do too as the author. But that's a lot of back and forth. And at the same time, I'm sure you're working on something else, so it
Right.
takes you out of that and back into the old book that needs to get out to the world.
Yes, you have definitely nailed it.
Uh, so, how much input do you have on like the choice in title or cover? Have you always kept the title that you chose when you were writing the book?
Titles can be a funny thing. I've had publishers who ask me for a list of titles. Tell me what you think the book should be called, and then they may pick from the list. And that's usually the marketing department that's picking from the list. And if they don't like that list, then they'll come back to me and say, we don't like that list, send me another set. I have also had publishers who maybe didn't want my input, and they're like, this is what the marketing department thinks is going to make this book sell. This is what it is. Do you have any input? But really, I kind of understood that that's what the title was going to be. I'm sure if I really put my foot down, they may work with me. But as far as titles, I kind of had more input than I thought, but not always. And the cover art, a lot of times they would have me fill out like this fact sheet where I would tell them who the characters are, maybe even what they look like. So it depends on if they want to put, people on the front or not. I could tell them some scenes. These are some pivotal scenes, so that maybe they base the cover on a scene. And then the marketing department and the art department again goes from there, and they're going to send me back a final version, and that's pretty much where I end, because they're going to say, this is what we think it's going to sell. This is your cover. Here you go. You can have it. But that's where it ends.
Okay. I guess that, I mean, they're beautiful covers. I'm like looking behind you right now. So
Well, when I put the books out, of course, I have every say, because I'm telling the art person, this is what I'm looking for. And luckily with the SVG books, the cover artist that I used, I gave her a concept and she just nailed it. and I was very happy with that. And of course, these are my titles that I had, so it's slightly easier when you're kind of doing it yourself. You just hope that you hit all the marketing high points, but you know, a little different.
Yes. Um, so you're you're joining us. We got in contact because you're a member of the New Jersey Romance Writers.
Mhm.
Um, so how important was joining a writers group or having critique partners for you?
I would say joining a writers group, even if it's just one or more than one, is pivotal. Especially if, well, I shouldn't say especially. I think no matter what development stage you're at, just starting out writing all the way to maybe you have multiple books written, you should be around your people. You need to find what they call your tribe. These are people who understand what you're looking for when you say, I have a problem with this. I don't understand what this means. I need to find out how to do this. Everybody around you understands what you're looking for, and at least one person in the group will hopefully have an answer or will show you where to find the answer. Plus, when you're having a bad day or you're having issues, you have people who also had a bad day, so you're not by yourself. And they kind of, cheer you on. So it's pivotal, especially if you're starting out and you need some feedback. That's for your critique partners. If you find a really good one and you do the same for them, they're going to tell you this works and this doesn't work. They're going to give you honest answers where maybe somebody just wants to be really nice to you and say, oh, this was wonderful. Another writer is going to say that didn't work. And this is why. They may say it very nicely, hopefully nobody says it horribly, but they're going to say, this is how you fix it. So,
Okay. Um, and what advice would you give a new writer that's just starting out?
I would say you'll receive a lot of advice on how to write a book, as I was talking about earlier. While it's good to hear it, and maybe you get some, tips that you're like, oh, I never thought of that before. That's a really good idea. Don't become so focused on it that you freeze. Uh, just sit down and do what's best for you. If that means flying by the seat of your pants, then just do it. Maybe you'll have fun with it. Let the story surprise you. Or, have 5,000 Post-it notes all around your room if that works for you, in order to keep the story. It just get the first draft down, let it tell you the story.
Okay. I like to end on a fun note. So I'm going to ask, you've described yourself as an avid reader. Do you have a favorite author or book series?
Oh boy, my head just exploded. Um, I I love books in all genres. So I probably have favorites in all genres. I mean, it depends on my mood. I'm a mood reader. So I could be like inhaling paranormal this week. Next week, I want to have romantic comedy. And the week after that, I may want to have, just high action, like a Clive Cussler. Are they going to make it through, and save the day book? Or maybe I want to learn something and I pick up a nonfiction. So I wish I could tell you one author, but we would be here all day if I listed all the authors that I've been reading lately that I've just consumed. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but
Being a reader, we always are happy to hear that. Being a good reader. Um, well, I want to say thank you, PA, for joining us today, and all the best of luck with your SBG series and with the romantic thriller suspense that you said that you were working on at the moment. We look forward to that coming out too. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been
I
a pleasure.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.